Today we're talking about the coronavirus because the World Health Organization just said it's looking increasingly likely to be a global pandemic. Oh boy, the jokes really don't write themselves with this one. I'm specifically going to focus on the National Health Commission of the People's Republic of China and America's Department of Health and Human Services to just see what they're doing to further the hopefully uncontroversial goal of keeping me and you alive. Let's hope it's extensive, considering I'm reporting this from Corona Heights, Queens, and that's certainly not a good omen. So let's start with the source and see what the head of China's National Health Commission, Ma Xiaowei, is doing to slow the spread of this coronavirus. To understand his plan, I need to take a step back. China is a country with so many people that there are cities you've never heard of with populations 11 times larger than Midwestern states in America. Take for example Wuhan, population 11 million, and the epicenter of this virus. That city alone is about 1.5 times the population of New York City. Why is that important to keep in mind? Well, when you hear reports like,
as of Thursday morning, the city has been cut off from the rest of the country. Trains, flights, buses, and ferries have been cancelled. Even public transport within Wuhan has ground to a halt.
That's a big deal! Could you imagine if New York and Los Angeles were suddenly cut off from America? I realize I'm describing some Republicans' fantasies right there, but that would be an economic and logistical nightmare. That's not to mention the fact that the quarantine has now expanded to 15 cities, making up 50 million people. We're talking the combined population of California and Illinois, just stuck in shut down cities. Now in the past, China has successfully detained 2 million Uyghurs, but whoo-wee, welcome to the authoritarian major leagues with this one. Now this unprecedented size of a quarantine is bringing up two major problems: providing food and providing supplies for the 50 million paranoid citizens of these cities. China has told farmers to step up vegetable production, opened roads for delivery trucks, and is punishing those trying to profit in order to keep feeding residents of the lockdown city of Wuhan at the center of this new coronavirus outbreak. Unfortunately for communists throughout history though, a government mandates increased food production doesn't increase food production. According to the AP, the government of Hubei province, which is where Wuhan is, said authorities were working with retailers to bring food from as far away as Yunnan province in the southwest and Hainan Island in the South China Sea. A crackdown on hoarding and price gouging by merchants was announced after the food costs spiked. Now, I'm just throwing it out there. If you guys want a literal mountain of soybeans, I think we could make a deal. Now I really want to emphasize, we are talking about a population almost the size of California and Texas that's just stopped. So this is no small endeavor. The other big issue is health supplies. Take it away, Ma Xiaowei.
We have transported protective suit, masks, gloves, and goggles to Wuhan. The central government has earmarked 1 billion yuan for funds in central budget to support the prevention and treating in Hubei province.
Things are pretty dire regarding medical supplies. After the quarantine was announced, there was a run on face masks, so those are pretty much all gone in the quarantine zone. And I can't imagine being in a quarantine zone without protection. I mean, when someone's coughing in a waiting room with me, I go full bandit with my shirt and sit on the opposite side of the room. Good news though, a new shipment was successfully delivered to the region. Although bad news, footage emerged of party members taking those face masks from doctors for themselves. What do you know, the people in charge of distribution got all the good stuff, shocker of the century. Alongside that, to solve a different supply problem, in an impressive architectural feat, over a 10-day period China built a hospital from scratch in the heart of the quarantine zone. Unfortunately, you don't build a hospital in 10 days unless you really need a hospital. People suffering from the coronavirus are being turned away from hospitals Even with this new Easy Bake hospital fresh out of the oven, city officials and signs on checkpoints have said that the hospital would not accept walk-ins. Admission was only for patients with officially confirmed coronavirus infections who are transferred from other facilities. The sad fact is the death toll for this disease is so large because the hospitals are overflowing and a complete shutdown of public transportation is creating a large-scale bottleneck. Now I want to expand this to China's broader coronavirus mitigation strategy because, unfortunately for China, this disease has now appeared in every province. I'm not sure if you've heard, but China has a terrifyingly great surveillance network, and boy are they using it. The country's state-run media has celebrated the application of the authorities' big data tracking abilities in the campaign to control the disease outbreak, touting it as an example of the social benefits of the technology. It's like how the guy in LA who buys that combat-ready Hummer vehicle with a fuel efficiency of walking while dumping a gas can next to you probably feels a slight pang of joy when the apocalypse finally hits. Now I get to use this thing without looking like a complete jerk. By all signs, this method of cyberstalking over 1 billion people is proving to be a very effective method of early detection, as once they find someone who's become infected, China can just backtrack their movements by the minute for months. This brings us to the other group, America's Department of Health and Human Services, led by Alex Azar. America's strategy for coronavirus is a pretty simple two-step approach. First,
the playbook for responding to an infectious disease outbreak is relatively simple and multi-tiered. You identify cases, isolate people, diagnose them, and treat them. Then you track down all of the contacts of the infected person, and you do the same with those people and the same with contacts of contacts if necessary.
Basically, we're doing the same thing as China's crackdown here, except instead of the mom who sends you a Facebook friend request so she can see where you were Friday night, we're the old school parents who stay up all night until you get home so they can pester you with questions and figure out exactly where you were tonight, young man. Who were you with? Did you cough on anybody? Considering, as of the writing of this episode, there were 11 confirmed cases of coronavirus in America, this is still an incredibly viable strategy. More broadly though, America's strategy is less containment and more prevention. The American government said on Friday that it would temporarily deny entry to non-citizens who had recently traveled to China. Under this administration though, let's be real, you had them at deny entry to non-citizens. Citizens who are coming from China will go through extensive fever and other symptoms detecting procedures and some of the most extensive hot or not tests out there. America is also evacuating her citizens from quarantine cities like Wuhan and putting them in domestic quarantine in an Air Force base in Southern California, until they are confirmed not sick. This finally answers the question, how can international flights get even worse? Just sprinkle in the potentiality of a highly infectious disease. Cough once and you can probably have both armrests. So that's how the two relevant government organizations are fighting the coronavirus. It seems like these plans are pretty solid as of now. So if you see someone sick in the streets, it's more likely to be good old-fashioned too many coronas. Thank you, and that's all I have to say about that. Hello YouTube! First, I'd like to thank my patrons for helping me put out my videos. If you want to support independent, nonpartisan news looking into the overlooked, join this growing group of exceptional individuals by clicking the link in the description. Also remember to subscribe and ring that bell so the freedom will continue to ring. Give me a thumbs up if you like what you saw, and lastly, as always, thank you for watching.